few weeks ago, I was talking to an elderly lady. She'd had some blood tests that had come back as abnormal, and they were quite concerned about the state of her health. So I offered to pray for her, and together we commanded that her bloods would come back to normal and that any symptoms would disappear. Then it was a week later that I saw her, and she excitedly told me how she'd been to the hospital and she'd had further blood tests taken, but they'd come back as normal, and the hospital were confused as to why everything had returned to normal. Now, being an elderly woman with her faith in Jesus, she shared how she believed God had restored her. And despite the fact that she'd had this miracle happen, then when I met her this last week, she shared something else. My name's Paul. I'm a former atheist, now an evangelist. I'm a lover of Jesus, a lover of people. I'm out on the streets to share the gospel, and I pray for the sick, and I see God move mightily with many miracles. I also work with a group of people to minister to the homeless and those that are in need. And if you'd like to support the ministry, then please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Last Wednesday, 3 of us were in a meeting. We were covering just some practical things that needed to happen. And this meeting took place in a church. Now, as we sat there and we were about to start the meeting, I just felt led to go to one of the halls in the church, to go and pop my head round the door and say hello to a few people. And really, I should have been focused on starting the meeting, but I was obedient to the leading of the Holy Spirit. I went down, popped my head round the door, and I went and said hello to these people. And it was very brief. I literally popped my head round the door, smiled, and in my usual way just said hello, and then went back and started the meeting. Now, one of the people that I'd said hello to was this lady that had been cured from the blood disorder. And then 2 days later, on the Friday, a group of us came together for food and fellowship. And one of the people sat there was this elderly lady. Now, I shared a message about jars of clay and being full. And I actually did a YouTube video on something similar, which I'll put up in the corner here. And a link below if you would like to go and watch it. And as I shared about being jars of clay full of something, full of God, this elderly lady interrupted me and said, I just want to share something. Earlier in the week, I was feeling down and I wasn't planning to fellowship today. A few things had happened and I didn't really feel like I wanted to go out. But when you popped your head round the door on Wednesday and said hello, I just looked at you and could see that you were full of Jesus. And she said, I thought to myself, I need to go to the fellowship. I need to go and get full of Jesus. I need that joy in my life. And I was humbled on how God works, how He works in the detail of our lives, leading me to go out at the beginning of a meeting, literally just to pop my head round the door and say hello. But through the joy of the Lord that was on display, being full of Jesus, how that impacted those people that I said hello to. And she came up afterwards at the Friday fellowship and said that that was a word she really needed to hear. And it really inspired and encouraged her to go and seek the Lord more. And yes, while the physical miracle signs and wonders are awesome, and the salvation that Jesus gives us is better than anything else, it just goes to show that even in the smallest moment, if we make ourselves available and humble ourselves before God, He can use us in ways that we just don't see. We just don't comprehend it. You just do not know what impact your interactions are going to have on people. In Philippians 2 it says, For it is God who is at work in you, both to desire and to work for His good pleasure. You see, by allowing God to work in us and have His way, it increases the desire for us to want to do the things He wants us to do. It gives us the desire to want to do things that are going to please Him and to do the works that He has assigned to us. And you may have felt that at some times that you feel that God is at work in you. And then in other days you feel more flat. You don't feel like you want to do that work. The desire isn't there, as it says in Philippians. But that's because we have to constantly allow ourselves to be set alight. In 2 Timothy 1 it says, For this reason I remind you to kindle afresh the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands. For God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and discipline. So you see, Paul said, I laid hands on you, but you've got to constantly kindle afresh the gift that God has given you. And kindle means to set alight, set on fire. And what is it that we're kindling afresh? It's the Holy Spirit inside us. The spirit of power, of love and discipline. The power of the Holy Spirit operate through our lives through miracles, signs, wonders. Love for people to see the love of Jesus oozing out of us. The kindness, the graciousness and the mercy that operates in our life. The gentleness. In the NASB, which I've just used, it says discipline, but in some translations it says of sound mind or judgment. The Spirit gives us a sound mind, that we're not slaves to fear, we're not full of timidity, but we're actually acting in the boldness of what Jesus wants us to do. In 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 it says, and we are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Through that kindling afresh, we allow ourselves to constantly take captive our thoughts for Jesus. And Paul said, you get this by the laying on of hands. Laying on of the hands to receive the Holy Spirit. But another important factor is to kindle it constantly. And how do we do that? Well, it's the same way that was mentioned at Acts 1. Gathering them together, he commanded them not to leave Jerusalem, but to wait for what the Father had promised, which he said, you have heard from me, for John baptized with water, but you will be baptized by the Holy Spirit not many days from now. So through the laying on of hands, the waiting on God, we get baptized in the Holy Spirit, but we then kindle afresh by waiting on him. Again, getting in prayer and getting alone with God. Jesus did it. He went out and got baptized by John. Then he was baptized with the Holy Spirit and went out into the wilderness for 40 days. And all the way through his ministry, he took time to be alone with God, constantly finding time to go be alone with God, to pray and to commune with God. And it's the same for us because Jesus is the example. We should be doing the same. Once we've been baptized with water, once we've been baptized in the Holy Spirit, we should be spending time daily alone with God. That way we get filled, constantly rekindling afresh what God has put in us. Constantly being filled with the spirit of power, love and sound mind. Don't underestimate this being alone with God on a daily basis and the impact that it has as you walk out your Christian life. The impact it has through your prayers. The impact it has on receiving words of knowledge or receiving prophetic words. In the secret place, alone spending time with God, can we be set afire and rekindled so that you can be rekindled, set alight afresh on an ongoing basis. I just pray God bless you guys, and I'll see you soon.